Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to do this beautiful blanket. This one is done in Horizon yarn, Hobby Horizon yarn. The number for this yarn, if you want to know, is number 2. So you go into Hobby website and just type in Horizon and then you'll see all the different colours of this. This is a 200 gram ball of yarn. It's 100% acrylic and it's a weight 4, and in the UK that's an Aran weight. This is for the car seat, a large baby car seat that's in my daughter's car, and I've made this beautiful, beautiful pattern. Now it needs no border. It needs no border. It makes its own border. I'm going to show you how to get the bottom the same as you do your first row, and then we'll do that bottom row and I'll show you how to do it. It's done in clusters like this. This is a really soft yarn. I used a 5mm crochet hook as well, just to make it nice and light. It's a really pretty pattern, a lovely little cluster. On this one, I done 44 rows. I've done 44 rows to complete my blanket, and it took just under 200 grams of yarn. And if that's in meters, it is 550 meters or 601 yards. So I'm going to show you how to do this. It's absolutely beautiful. Now, as you're working up the sides, this is the way the side goes. So there's no need for a border around this. If you say, Alison, what kind of border will I put on it? I'm going to tell you none, because it's got its border run on the top. It makes its own lovely little border along the side, and I'll show you almost after the first row how to do the bottom and get the bottom and the top the same. So I'm going to show you how to do this really easy cluster, and this is so soft. It's a really soft stitch as well. Use any yarn you want and use the hook size it tells you on the label. So this is done in sets of 4 stitches. You'll do your chain in sets of 4. So I'm going to do a small sample to show you how to do this stitch. This cluster is really easy. So you're going to do your chain in sets of 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So I'm going to do a small sample to show you how to do the cluster. I'll show you how to do the base row and then how to start the pattern. Or you can do your blanket as wide as you want it to be in sets of 4. So we're going to go into the 4th stitch in your chain. 1, 2, 3 and 4. We're going to do a UK treble crochet. That's a USA double crochet if you're in the USA. So into that 4th stitch. So those chains that we missed is a stitch. So we've got 1 and 2. Now we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. Then into that same 4th stitch, you're going to do a UK double crochet. That's a single crochet if you're in the USA. And this is what the cluster's going to be. Now you're going to skip 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And into the next, the 4th stitch, you're going to put 2 UK treble crochets, 2 chain and 1 double crochet to create the clusters. So if you're in the USA, that's 2 double crochets, 2 chain and 1 single crochet for you. So yarn over, and we're going to put our 2 UK treble crochets in first, into that stitch, into the same stitch, 1 and 2. Chain 2, 1, 2, and then do your double crochet into that same stitch. This is a single if you're in the USA. And that is your cluster. 2 stitches, 2 chain, and then 1 more stitch. So we're going to skip 3. 1, 2, 3, and do that cluster again. So 1 UK treble, 2 UK treble, in the same stitch, chain 2, 1, 2, and then 1 UK double, and that's a single if you're in the USA. Skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and then do your cluster into the 4th stitch. 1, 2 stitches, 2 chain, 1, 2, and then your UK double crochet or your USA single, and that's the little cluster. Skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and then do the cluster in the next into the 4th stitch. 1, 2. Remember the 2 chain. 1, 2. We'll be using the chains from now on and throughout the pattern. So do your double crochet. Yarn over, skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the 4th stitch, do the cluster. 1 and 2 UK trebles, 2 chain, and 1 UK double. And again, if you're in the USA, that's 2 double crochet, 2 chain, and 1 single, all into the same stitch to create the cluster. So from now on, I'm just going to call it a cluster. Yarn over, skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and do a cluster. Remember the chain 2. You'll do that all the way to the end of your length. I've got 4 left. 1, 2, 3, I'm going to skip, and into the last stitch, I'm going to do a cluster. Remember your 2 chain and then your little stitch. I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn it upside down. Keep the tail out of the way. You can work your tail in along the bottom. Now do you see those chains? These are the 3 stitches that we skipped in the chain. We're going to do a cluster into there. Now I've got my first stitch here. This is my first stitch here. So into this cluster, I'm going to put 1 more UK treble crochet. I'm going to do my chain 2, 1, 2, and then do my double crochet. So that's my first cluster done. I'm going to bring my tail along just to bring it in. So you're going to go along to your next chain. That's the 3 stitches we skipped. Now into there, I'm going to leave my tail down. I'll sew that in later. Into the chain, 1 and 2, then chain 2, 1, 2, and double crochet to finish the cluster. Move to the next chain. So you've got that upside down cluster there. We're going into the chain in between the 2 clusters, not that stitch, in the chain. And that's going to make sure that your blanket has that pattern on the bottom, and that way it works its way up the side as well, and you'll have it on the top, and you won't need to put a border on. It's a completely borderless blanket. I'll work my way to the end. So just work along to your next chain and put your cluster in. So I'm nearly at the end. I've got a chain here and I've got 1 pattern. So into the chain, do a cluster, Remember, we've got it upside down. Now right in the corner here, into this corner, we're going to do a cluster into this very last corner. Just go in there. Chain 2. Remember the chain 2s. And 1 double crochet. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start working the blanket up the way. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. That's your first stitch, and turn around. Now in to the chain space right here, put 1 more treble crochet. Then you chain 2, 1, 2, and then your double crochet to complete the cluster. So move to the next chain. From now on, we're only going to work in those chain spaces. So skip over those stitches and go in to the chain and do your cluster. 1, 2, chain 2, 1, 2, and then your little double crochet. Move to the next chain, and that's what you're going to keep repeating. I'll work my way along to the end, and I'll show you one more time how to go up and do your next row. Only in the chain 2 spaces. That's why you've got to remember and do your chain 2. Now I'm nearly at the end. Now don't worry that your tail's up here, because remember we turned it upside down to get that nice pattern on the bottom. So there's my chain. Going into that one. This is my second last chain. Do your cluster. Then we're going to go in to this last chain here and do your cluster. 1 and 2, your chain 2, and then your UK double. That's a USA single. That's your last cluster done. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn your work around. Now you're going straight back into your chain. So that's your first stitch done. And this one is my second of the cluster. Chain 2, and do your little double or single stitch, whatever country you're in. So when you're going over, make sure you go into the chain space of the cluster. Don't go into that space there. There's your cluster and there's your chain. So make sure you go into the chain. And do your next cluster. Now find your chain. There's your cluster. Now find your chain space. It's not that space there. That's your cluster. 1, 2, 3 stitches, and there's your chain there. So I've got one cluster left, and there's my chain space there. Don't worry that it's not right on the edge, not on this row. Do your cluster, chain your 2, then you're going to chain 3 to start the next row. 1, 2, 3, and turn your work, and you're going to go straight in to the chain. So that's your first stitch done there. That chain of 3 is your first stitch. So into the chain, do that one, that's the second stitch. Then the chain 2, and then your little stitch. That finishes the cluster. And you'll keep repeating that until yours is as big as you want it to be. And doing it that way, you get a nice edge. We've already got the bottom done, and you'll finish on that cluster row and you'll have a nice top. And that way You don't need to do a border on this blanket at all because the border is making itself as you work. So that's my beautiful little blanket done. Make it as big as you want, make it as tall as you want. If you use chunky, I think I will try this and do another very quick video with this done in chunky and a large needle, just to show you how much the pattern's going to change just by changing the yarn that you use. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Give this a try. It's beautiful. It's really easy for beginners as well. A really easy to remember cluster. Just remember that when you do your stitch, make sure you're using the chain. When you do your next row, don't go into that space there. You can see that space. I'll move that over. Don't use the space, use the chain that's in the cluster, and that'll keep your pattern correct. So please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. It only takes a few steps and it's completely free to subscribe to the channel. It gives the channel great moral support. I don't get paid for it from YouTube. All it helps is to get my videos seen a little bit more. And if you click, there is a bell icon down there. If you want notified by YouTube for free when I put up another tutorial, then click on that bell icon as well. So until the next time, happy crafting and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.